Hey everybody, what the flick? Alonso, Bibbs, The Affair, episode 2. Have a look.
After that first night, I went out on my way to avoid her.
Do you two know each other?
Not really.
Got a call about a catering job tonight if anyone wants it.
Where?
Bruce Butler.
Excuse me, sir. Do you order whiskey? Is she flirting with you?
How is any of this relevant to what happened?
Trying to figure out if anyone might have had a motive to kill this fella.
I thought it was an accident. I'm married.
Marriage means different things to different people.
I've been thinking about you all week.
So I like that we don't yet know if there's only one perspective we're supposed to be trusting here.
Yeah.
Or that it's necessarily hers, because I think the initial thing is like, oh well, she's telling us the real thing, and he's sort of filtering it through his writer mentality. Either one of them, or both of them, could be a very unreliable narrator.
Well, like they have that bit where, because the framing device is they're being not quite interrogated, but a cop is trying to get more information about a crime that has been committed.
And we're getting a little more dribs and drabs about that.
Apparently someone was like hit by a car. It's very beyond the Valley of the Dolls kind of.
Yeah, there's a male character something terrible has happened to, but we don't know who yet.
But even when she just says like, well, I don't think it was anyone that happened at the party, it's like she sounds like an Agatha Christie character trying to deflect suspicion, doesn't she?
It's the last of Sheila, you know.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one. I like the last of Sheila.
But again, it's like they're the way they remember the things that happened when they're together. It varies greatly depending on who's telling the story and who wants to come out sympathetically, you know.
Yeah.
But again, I think, you know, for after the pilot, you know, your first instinct is, oh well, trust her. But after this one, I'm like, maybe not trust her. I don't know.
Well, I actually watched this episode twice because my initial impression of it was, here again is an episode in which, you know, they both see each other as a sexual aggressor, and that seems like the only difference. And then I watched it again, now knowing what I know of the second half, her perspective, looking at his perspective and vice versa. And I noticed a lot of other really interesting details, simple details, like she doesn't remember what his wife's dress looks like at the party. Because in her memory, she's just wearing a traditional black thing.
Oh,
just
funny,
a black
I didn't
dress.
catch that.
And whereas in he remembers her actually saying, should I wear this dress or this dress? And then she's wearing a bright red dress at the party the entire time.
Right, the one that he didn't pick.
So there were a lot of details, just like how much the jam cost. Like,
yes, I know that. My impression was that in his memory he just buys one. Like the Apple whatever, and then exactly. So it is all about who's telling it.
Yeah, and that's actually, this seems to really hold up to multiple viewings in a way that makes it more interesting even than the first time, because only so much technically happens in any given episode here. Here they go to the ranch and he sees this guy who may or may not be a rapist for all he knows, even though he's masturbating to that. So dude, weak. And like, you know, oh no, I don't think I want my son to. Oh, all right, I guess you can hang out with my son. But another than that, it's just like
the ranch of handsome men, by the way.
Oh,
like,
well, aren't they all?
Pacey and his brothers are also like, well, okay, you know, but they all do seem a little rapey. They're coming on to the daughter.
Yeah, I was like, oh, what is she? She's only 16. I'm just trying to drum up business by having sex with her. I mean, she's cute, but
that's foolproof.
Yeah, I don't know. That's not cool. That's not cool. And it's also interesting that she sees that. She remembers that scene at the party where they almost ended up in the bedroom together.
Right.
Whereas Noah
doesn't.
He didn't put together how significant that was. Only she knew.
That's true.
That it was really obvious that they were going to go and do something inappropriate. And for him, that's just like he saw his daughter with some guy and he forgot all about it.
True.
You know, and that's actually very, very interesting stuff.
And you know, the idea of where the mother-in-law sends her over to spill a drink on the father-in-law, but then gets intercepted by Noah. It's like,
and he remembers, she just brought me a drink. Isn't she nice? Isn't she nice? Like all of this stuff is making it just really kind of fascinating to look at the details of a series, and that's something you don't get. Like a lot of TV series are way more interested in the broad strokes. Maybe they think out the details, maybe they don't, but they want you to just sort of absorb it whole. And here is a fascinating series where the minutia really builds and makes it very special so far, and I'm really digging it.
I'm gonna going to drop a name. Everybody catch. I was on Bret Easton Ellis's podcast, and we had an argument about whether or not...
How is Bret these
Bret's
days?
Great. He was very sweet. Anyway, there apparently, and I had it with him, and I've heard him have this on other episodes, where he has this, he doesn't buy into the whole notion that there's a golden age of TV happening right now, because he thinks that TV in general is so married to storytelling narrative device, and that, that
Isn't
no matter
every medium devoted to its own
he thinks,
tropes?
I think film is obviously allowed to sort of play around with things in different ways, and you can be experimental or whatnot. But he says the TV is ultimately kind of tethered to a certain kind of storytelling in a certain way, and that no matter how well acted it is, or how well written it is, or whatever other flourishes there might be, that it still kind of comes down to the same old, same old. And I think this is a show that really is kind of playing around with a much more sort of cinematic style of narrative that rewards visual attention, as you've discovered.
Yeah, you can't watch this and look at your phone and like play whatever game.
No, I mean, I was paying attention, but not having watched it twice, I missed a lot of that stuff. So
no, and I think that's fabulous. And no, I think that we are in a very, if nothing else, we're in a very interesting age of television where artistic ambition is actually getting rewarded by the masses. Often there seems to be, at least to the outside observer, a bit of a divide. Mainstream audiences like reality TV. And
or there's
but like no one will watch.
There's a structure in place where you don't have to have the masses anymore.
True.
You can. I'm sure a show like Breaking Bad or Mad Men or whatever, or anything on one of the pay channels doesn't have to get 2.5 Men numbers. If they get a smaller devoted audience and they get critical acclaim and they get people want to binge watch it or get the DVDs or whatever the afterlife is, that's okay. And so that's they don't have. It's sort of like how your Sundance movie doesn't have to be Guardians of the Galaxy.
True, and actually, that's sort of the whole reason why we have cable in the first place.
Sure.
Like one of the great advantages of cable was that they could focus their content. There could be a comedy channel. There could be a sci-fi channel. It's like, okay, well, sci-fi and wrestling now, but whatever. But you can just try to get, instead of trying to get a little bit of everyone, you just try to get all of this audience.
Sure.
And it's interesting, but even so, like a lot of the shows that really break out have some sort of obvious appeal. Breaking Bad is really thrilling.
Yeah.
For example, even though narratively it's actually very experimental.
I was going to say, I mean, in some ways it's a traditional show, and in other ways it's a very bold one.
Well, I mean, Breaking Bad is, usually shows are about, any story is about how people get better as a person. You learn a valuable lesson and through these actions or whatever. Breaking Bad is about someone gets worse as a person.
True,
that
true,
in and
true.
of itself is very bold in a mainstream storytelling. And The Affair, it seems to be after something a lot more subtle, which is why the thing I am least interested in is this mystery that they're very awkwardly setting up, if I'm being honest. They only really bring it up when they cut back to these interrogation rooms. It's just very straight.
But even the way that she behaves in that interrogation room is different from either her or his recollections of her.
Right, but it is
She seems to be putting on something.
Know.
I don't know. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt,
sure.
see where this is going. But that little dollop of information that she is a much cooler customer in that room and dressed in a certain way, and her hair's done a certain way, and she's behaving in a certain way that we don't get from either perspective of them in the flashback to these events. What I also like about this show is that the spouses aren't quite being demonized. You think a show about an affair is, oh, my horrible marriage, no wonder I'm going to have sex with the other person.
Right.
Morta Tierney, so far, is a peach.
A little passive aggressive at times, but even then she's playful about it.
Yeah,
I think fine. I'm going to go find a pool boy who'll shower with me.
She has a sense of humor. It's like, okay, yes, they got married right out of college, and that can be a problem. And people, like he says, I hadn't discovered myself yet, and that's not uncommon that people who marry in their early 20s, by the time they're 30, realize, oh wait, we weren't finished becoming ourselves yet, and maybe I now married the wrong person. But she's not like a harpy in any way, which would have been an easy shortcut for this. So I'm curious to see what we learn about the spouses as well, and how that plays into this infidelity that's going to happen at some point. We haven't even gotten to the affair yet.
There's been a little smooching, but that's as far as we go. Let me ask you one good question, because I'm trying to remember. I forgot. I deleted it from my DVR. In her recollection, in the first episode.
Okay.
Did she get naked in front of him and take a shower, or was that only in his?
No, that's in his.
Okay, but here's the thing. In this episode, when she's remembering their conversation on the beach from this time, he says something about, like, it's nice to see you with clothes on.
Ah. Well,
So she might actually be. Here's the question:
That's true.
How much of this is a recollection,
Right.
and how much of this is the story that they're telling, and are they omitting things on purpose?
I suspect that if it continues going in this direction, we're going to see some great graphs on the internet. Like those people who map out what actually happens in Primer, It's going to be like, what actually happens in the affair and this, and then he said, but she said, but then she later remembers, and, she claims that she can't swim in her recollection of episode 2, which seems strange.
It's a little suspect,
but
maybe.
Or it might be. I don't like to guess, but I'm gonna have a guess
speculate.
here.
People like it
I'm
when
gonna
we speculate.
I bet maybe the son drowned, and since then she doesn't like to go in the ocean.
That is also a very, very good plot.
Just a thought.
possibility.
Just a
well,
thought.
I mean, like she gets the fish from that guy, and it should be just a simple, straight up, oh, here are the fish, and then but everyone afterwards is just like, how did it go? And like he talks about how my mom is praying for you. Maybe he was involved. Maybe he was there. Maybe it was on his boat.
Well, it's a small town. I mean,
Yeah.
like
they just made such a thing out of it. Like, why would you,
true.
Why
But
would,
even
why
the
would
mother-in-law had read about it in the paper.
Sure,
she
but
knew
my
about
point
it.
is just why would going to a fishmonger, which I just love getting to use that word in
Monger.
casual conversation.
People
but
don't mong enough.
Why would going to a fishmonger require someone close to you to say, "Are you okay?" afterwards?
Yeah, there was so much time spent on that I was wondering, am I missing something? What
I feel
else
like
is
we're going to
happening
find out
here?
more about that guy. He's
Yeah,
got to be important.
there's-
So I'm so intrigued. That's
Yeah,
the
no,
good thing.
exactly.
It's great.
I'm on
enjoying
board
it.
for whatever's going to
Yeah.
happen. I want to see where this all goes. So find out more from us next week.